Hello, my name's Jim, making a rare appearance this time in front of the camera as opposed to my normal videos which involve me behind the camera, documenting the life of a band, Fine Lines or sometimes Zoon, as we go about on the road playing some gigs, that sort of thing. Now, as a little explanation to people that have subscribed to me in the past, this isn't a music video. Talk about the band a little bit. We've had a couple of personnel changes. Zoe and Mark have stepped back from the band due to other commitments, and we've now got a new singer called Helen and a new drummer called Emily. So band's going great. We're rehearsing. We've got some new tracks that we're rehearsing through. Hopefully we'll get those recorded in the new year with a view to maybe putting an album out. So that's covered. What I'm going to talk about today is something that you might not be aware of if you do sort of subscribe to me and don't look at the other things around. There are a group of people who are known as flat earthers, and they believe that the earth is flat and it's not a globe. They can't explain what sort of shape it is, but they just know it's flat and there's no curvature. Now, there was something that happened a couple of days ago, about a week ago now, called the Final Experiment, in which a guy from America called Will Duffy paid for some flat earthers and some globe earthers, or normal people as we'll call them, to actually go to the Antarctic and film the sun for 24 hours. Because one of the big things that they said about flat earth is that you can't have a 24-hour sun on a flat earth. It doesn't work on any of the models. Now, one of the chaps that was on this visit, a guy called Dave McKeegan, who lives in Manchester, so obviously top bloke, he did a time-lapse video of the sun for 24 hours. Now, the video was about 47 seconds long, and if you sort of work around the maths, it's obviously not real time in the terms that we know it, because 47 seconds. So what he did basically was he set a camera up on a mount and it tracked the sun as it moved around, and he took one picture, I think about every 1 minute. It might be 2 minutes. I don't know the exact time scale that he did, but certainly working through the frame rates that it might have been at, it looks like it was every 1 minute to 2 minutes that he took this shot. And if you go and look for the video, it's on YouTube. It's now been shown on things like the Daily Mirror have run a story on it, the Daily Mail have run a story on it. So it's out there to see, and it's not hard to find. But basically, it's 47 seconds, and it shows the sun moving in a complete circle all the way around over the period of 24 hours, a full 360-degree rotation. Now, for everyone who's normal, half a brain, well, yeah, everyone who's not a disingenuous flat earther, that should be conclusive proof. But obviously, in the flat earth world, that's not good enough. There have been people that have watched this video that are flat earthers and said, yes, but that's not a real video. That's not real time. You're not showing everything. You're just showing this compressed version that you've got. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about how video works and how this thing will go. Because at some point, I think there will be a full 24-hour video released, which will be the sun moving around the earth in a circle over that 24-hour period. Now, what I think the flat earthers are going to do when they see this video is they're going to go, this isn't real. And the reason I think they're going to say that is down to the way that the videos are made, and all digital videos are made this way. To understand a little bit of the background, if you think of how a film used to work, so a movie film on the 35mm film stock, and you had the projector and it would go around, every single frame of that was a still picture, and it ran through the projector, and it ran through at a rate that was deemed to be smooth motion. So the flicker was almost imperceptible to the human eye, because the human eye can't work that fast to actually process images. So you can fool it. You don't have to have a continuous stream of imagery to go. It basically is a single frame. And it's a similar principle to how animations are made. So they draw a scene, and then they change the scene slightly, photograph each time, and then when they come to play it back, they play it back at 25 frames per second in the UK. In America, it was 30 frames a second. That was known as NTSC. UK is 25, which is PAL. one of the main differences, or the main reasons for the difference, is to do with the mains frequency of the electrical supply. In the UK it's 50 Hertz, in America it's 60 Hertz. So 50 Hertz divided by 2, 25 frames a second, 60 divided by 2, 30 frames a second. It's not really that important that you know this, but it just sort of gives you some background when we talk about real time. So 25 frames per second in the UK was always talked about as real time because the eye couldn't tell that it was going to go. When videos came out and when they started broadcasting on television, what they also found is that on the old cathode ray tube, there was a bit of, because it was phosphor on the inside, the phosphor would stay illuminated for a slight length of time, just long enough to make it so that you couldn't tell there were individual frames coming through. So real time, 25 frames a second. As a real world example, if you want to look at a film, Wallace and Gromit filmed at 25 frames per second. Fantastic Mr. Fox, the Wes Anderson film, is filmed at about 12.5 frames a second. So if you look at it, and you can get an idea of the difference in frame rates between the two. So this is all a little bit of background information, not really important, but you know, if you know about it, you know about it. When we move into digital video, which everything is nowadays, so I'm recording this on my phone. They recorded the final experiment, which is what it was called. That was all done on either 360 video cameras, standard video cameras, digital cameras. So it was all digital. And one of the big things about digital is the files are very big. In the native format, the files are very big. For example, you got a 1080p standard high resolution now. If you think of that, that's 1080 pixels, but actually you need to times that by 3 because you've got red, green, blue pixels. So you've actually got 3,000 pixels as opposed to 1,000. So these files very, very quickly get very, very big, especially with video where you're recording at real time or something approximating that. What happens is, to reduce the storage and the processing and the transmission of all of these files, they use something called compression. Compression basically takes an image and it digitizes it and then shrinks it. So what it does is it throws away information that's not necessarily useful or repeated, anything they can to shrink the file size, because it makes it obviously easier to handle in the digital world. So in this scene, for example, we've got multiple colours. We've got quite a light background. We've got some green on the bottles. We've got some browns. So it's quite a good scene in terms of the number of colours that we've got there. It's quite it's not a flat scene. So, but what they do is, in certain areas, they'll say, right, okay, so this is a block of white. So they'll say, instead of recording each pixel value, they'll say, well, that pixel there is exactly the same as the pixel next to it. So they don't need to record that value. They just say, this block now becomes this value. And that's how they start to compress the information. Now, the other thing they do, which is specific to video, is they do a thing called conditional refresh. Now, I've looked at some of the specifications of the recorders that were being used, and they use H.264 and H.265 compression. So we talked a little bit about what compression is in general. But what H.264 and 265 do is they have a reference frame, and then they will have intermediate frames. So basically, for this scenario that we're in at the moment, the reference frame is almost this area here, but obviously I'll be in it. So what it'll do is, when it takes a picture, it'll say, right, okay, I'm taking a picture, that's one frame, and I'll use that as my reference. And the next frame that comes along, there's very little, or there was very little movement in this area. So they won't do it again. They'll just say it's the same as the last one. They'll go, that area as well, there's not a lot happening over there, so we won't record that. And the reason they do this is because if you look at something like this now, if we were recording this for a long time at 25 frames a second, well, it's not changing. There's no point in doing it. You're using a lot of processing power, you're using a lot of storage to basically do absolutely nothing. So they reduce it and they take it down. And when I come into the frame, it's only me that's moving. So actually, it's only this area that the camera needs to process and do anything with. So when it comes to playing back these images, what will happen, and what I think will happen, is when they see the 24-hour recording, is actually there will be an awful lot of reference frames that will occur once every 1, 2, 10 seconds. And they'll just be intermediate frames. And the intermediate frame will probably be about that big, maybe. And it'll be something moving across. So it'll just be black apart from this little area there. And then, of course, what flat earthers will do is they'll go, that's not a real video. That's been edited. That's been messed with. So they will then deny that video that people took, and there were, I think, 8 or 9 people on this tour, and they'll say, oh no, it's all fake. It's not true. It's not real. And that is what they will use as their argument now, to still say the earth is flat and you fake the video. But hopefully I've explained it well enough to know for you to understand that that's not the case. The video that's been produced, even the time-lapse video that Dave has been produced, is absolute proof that the sun rotated 360 degrees around the South Pole, didn't go down, it didn't hide anywhere, there were no shenanigans that took place, and the time of flat earth being of any relevance at all is very much over. So that's it. Hopefully I've not bored you all with my inane ramblings, and thanks. Bye.